This week on the Jock and Nerd podcast, we review the 35th MCU movie, Captain America: Brave New World. Gerald Morris returns to join us for the review and give us an update on this year's Oscar race and more, all in this edition of the Jock and Nerd Weekly for Monday, February 17th, 2025.
Hi, this is Gilbert Gottfried, and you're listening to the Jock and Nerd podcast. Why? I don't know.
Check. Check one. All right. This is for all you fans out there. Let's give it up.
We talking, we nerding. We funny, disturbing. We talking, we nerding. We spoiler alert. Oh yeah!
Oh yeah, what's up, listener? Thank you for pressing play, and welcome to the Jock and Nerd podcast, where we give you comic book and superhero, TV and movie news, reviews, and whatever we choose. Jock and Nerd. My name is Imran.
My name's Anthony.
He's the Jock.
And he's the nerd.
Rug Boy's not here this week, filling in for him. He's back. It didn't take 2 years this time to get our buddy back on the show, Gerald Morris. What's up?
What's up, man? Resident Rug Boy this week, and it's been like 2 weeks. So when you messaged me, I was like, "Do you realize I just fucking came on the show?"
This isn't 2027.
Pleased.
Oh,
pleased, man. I'm happy to be here. I love you, dudes. What's up?
No, listen, we're happy to have you. You got to fill in for Ruggs. Listen, Ruggs, last 2 episodes, I don't know if you heard, he was on fire. He was more ornery than usual.
Oh wow.
So
okay.
I had to send him on vacation.
Yeah, I think him and Spider-Man, that TV show, I think it's just getting to him that people like it.
I think he snapped.
I really don't give a shit.
So he's at Felty World, which is a private exclusive amusement park just for puppets. I don't even know where it is. It's that private. I think it's next to Jeffrey Epstein's island, though. That's what anyways, Gerald.
Yes, sir.
Last time you were on, I introduced you as the host of the 2Ps podcast and YouTube channel, but I can't say that anymore.
Yeah,
what
no.
happened? Give us the info.
Well, man, I'll try to keep it brief, but I just had a little bit of soul searching because, my YouTube's been taken off, and the reason it's been taken off, or at least I suspect, is because of a lot of the awards race coverage, leading up to the Oscars, obviously, but it really starts like in November for me on the channel and just kind of making predictions and rankings and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, Tony knows what I'm talking about from his 2 months doing it in his life. But I just wanted to kind of rebrand to kind of fit what I'm going to be doing because my co-host is going to be exiting the show, the podcast version of the show. So it's really just going to be me running the show, and 2Ps didn't really make much sense for just to be one dude. So
1P? No.
I started thinking about 1P. I started thinking about like what title I could use, and then I just kind of went in the award season kind of on that pathway. And I'm still going to be a movie podcast and a movie YouTube channel, but there will be a few months a year where it's like super awards focused, like it is right now if you were to tune in. But I just changed it to the Awards Garage because, Imran, I know you know this, but my YouTube channel was always referred to as the Garage because it was kind of like the extra part from the main thing. So it's the Awards Garage, and we'll just be talking about movies and award season over there. So
rebranding.
Yeah.
Get into the garage, people. Get into the Awards Garage. That's great. All right. I will have all those links in the episode description, but I believe if people
Will it be year round?
It will be. So it's the Awards Garage, movies and more. So it'll be year round. I'm playing with the idea for the audio podcast, Tony, of having like revolving guests. So like just a small group of collaborators that, if there's a movie they really want to review with me, then they can come on and do it. And then, if I have 5 or 6 guests, they just kind of rotate once every 5 or 6 weeks. And it'll kind of be like my committee, if you will, for the podcast and for movie reviews. But I'll do all kinds of shit on the channel like I always do, like trailer reactions, movie reviews, that kind of stuff throughout the year.
Will it be a clean, fresh start, or will you migrate all the 2Ps content to under that?
So since I'm doing the same general concept centered around movies, I kept it with the 2Ps branding, and I just kind of let everybody know And so far nobody's jumped ship. So that's a good sign, I guess. But yeah, it's going to be the same thing I did, but I'm just not going to have a permanent co-host, and I'm going to talk about award season a lot more than I did on the podcast before. That's basically it. So
got it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
And I'm always available. Talk movies. You need any help? I don't want to speak for Anthony. He's not Mr. Polanski anymore.
I was available at some point.
I feel like if I have you guys on, you should come together. Like, if I cover one of these superhero movies on my podcast, you guys should come over there with me.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Come as a
I
duo,
already spent enough time with this guy.
We don't want to do other things together.
Yeah.
I refuse to show up if any of these other fuckers are there. We'll see what happens. That's great. Congratulations. Great. Rebranding is always fresh, exciting. The awards garage is where you can find all this stuff.
I'm looking at the awards garage right now. You did this one pod with Jonathan Fuji. When I was back into the Oscars, I was watching some of that guy's reaction videos. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. We're doing a collaboration all award season. So what we're doing, which is really cool. Actually, we recorded chapter 2 of that, but I haven't edited it yet. And then we're going to do a part 3 also. But what we're doing is each of us are removing a nominee from each category and putting in our pick.
Oh, nice.
To change the final 5 nominees. So it's been a lot of fun.
There's so many fun ideas you're doing on that with the awards spin. I love it. I think the listeners should check it out.
And he's got video. We don't.
Yes.
So he's much cooler than us.
You can see his cool ass beard. I am jealous of the beard.
I do have the beard. The beard is at front and center. That's for sure.
We will be reviewing a superhero movie today, and we will be talking about some awards today. Let's get started, you bastards.
The Jock and Nerd Podcast.
So if the listener hasn't checked out, it was like 2 episodes ago, and Gerald was on. You did a great job breaking down this year's Oscar nominations. That was very fun, very interesting. But,
thanks, man.
But since then, not only have you rebranded,
but that was our lowest rated show. We don't want you back.
No, look, he's back. What are you talking about?
he goes, but
I'm just saying, a lot has happened. Gerald's rebranded, and so much shit has happened in this already fluid Oscars race to change all the front runners up. It was the wide open thing. So, Gerald, I kind of want your thoughts and you to take us through the kind of the 2 big things I think that have affected the races. The first one, of course, is
just call him racist.
The races.
Oh,
the Oscar race.
We're about to talk about racism, though.
Yes, a little bit. Which race will bring home the Golden Globe? I don't know.
Oh my God.
So the one thing right after we recorded, Emilia Perez kind of implodes as this journalist uncovers these tweets by star Carla Sofia Gascon from a few years ago. Tweets maybe were slightly Islamophobic and racist, and she's talking about George Floyd and COVID and the Chinese and diversity in the Oscars. And then the other thing is, I believe all the lead-up awards have just been given out this past weekend. Is that correct?
There's one guild left to be given out that's actually really big for acting, at least, and that's the Screen Actors Guild Awards, which will be this weekend.
Okay.
It's actually on Netflix this year, too, which is cool. So it's Sunday night at 8 o'clock. But that's the last major, what's considered precursor. The only interesting thing with that is that voting ends as we're recording tomorrow on Tuesday the 18th for the Oscars.
For the Oscars, right.
So the SAG Awards that I was just mentioning will be airing and will be, the results will be viewed by the Academy members after they've already voted. Right. So there won't be as huge as an impact as there usually is. The California fires and some other things pushed stuff back and the schedule got kind of messed up. So, we'll see. I mean, I think there still is an impact from that body because they share a lot of members in the acting branch. So,
So, and I know all the awards that happened, they, mentioned the fires and it was all part of the presentation. But let's start with the Emilia Perez. Is this thing totally blown all its chances? What do you think about what happened? And now what are its chances to win?
Well, you got to recap what happened.
Anything.
So, yeah, I mean, the basic recap is kind of what Imran said, but essentially, so I'll try to keep this as unboring as possible, but basically there's 2 main international films in the mix this year. Emilia Perez, which is a musical. It's actually a French musical, but it is a Latino story taking place in Mexico predominantly, which is just weird to begin with, but that's what it is. And then the other one is a movie called I'm Still Here from Brazil, which is a wonderful biopic about the true story about the military dictatorship in the 1960s and 70s that was in Brazil that lasted until like 86. For like 20 years, they were under a dictatorship there. So what happened is I came on to record with you guys, and I don't know if you remember, but to my dismay, I predicted Amelia Perez to win Best Picture because
you did.
It is so loved by the industry, and because they gave it 13 nominations.
Yeah, it's crazy.
As much as Oppenheimer, just one shy of Titanic, which holds the record. I mean, fucking insanity. For a movie that, if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, I think it's like in the 40s or something.
Wow.
Like, it's not a good movie consensusly. So, but the industry loved it. So I said, okay, well, a lot of times the most nominated film has a really good shot to win. It got all the major nominations. It's probably going to win. Like 3 or 4 days after y'all's episode, Carla Sofia Gascon, who is the star of Amelia Perez, the titular character, she also in real life is a trans woman. And in the movie, and I think we talked about this too when I came on the first time, but in the movie, Amelia Perez, the character, is a woman that transitioned from a man who was essentially like a drug lord in Mexico. So she goes on and does this interview, and, she's just they're asking her questions about the Oscar race or whatever. And Sofia Gascon says that people on the I'm Still Here team were slandering Amelia Perez so that they would lose Oscars.
Okay.
So you can't do that. The Oscar bylaws state that you can't basically talk shit about other nominees. So it was a pretty lofty accusation that she was making in that interview. And people started kind of digging to see if that was true. And then the next day she came out and said, oh, no, not her team. It was just fans of the movie. Brazilians who love I'm Still Here are talking shit about our movie, which, by the way, they are because it sucks. But you're not doing it to throw any Oscar results or whatever. They're just fans,
That's a big misrepresentation of what's happening.
Right.
You're saying it's the fans versus the day before saying it's
exactly
movie, people behind the movie.
So that's like a 24-hour period where everybody's just kind of like, what the fuck? Like, why would she say that or whatever? But they're kind of like, shrugging it off like it was just a stupid comment. Well, then like the next day, kind of what Imran was talking about, it was like all these unearthed tweets and interviews and recordings that are literally some of the worst shit, the most racist shit you've ever heard. I mean, I don't even want to repeat them, but I mean, she's like basically praising Hitler in one of them about how he was misunderstood. She mentions how George Floyd was a thug that nobody's going to miss, and this is the week that he died that she tweeted that. Just a lot of really hateful shit, really xenophobic, really racist. And it was funny is not the right word, but it was like intriguing to watch unfold because she kept coming out trying to make it better. And every time she did, she made it worse because she wouldn't apologize. She wouldn't own up. She wouldn't accept responsibility. She basically said in so many words, like, it's been 5 years. You guys need to get over it. I mean, that's essentially what her statement was after it all came out. So since then, and this will tie this on a bow, Imran. So since then, Netflix, who is the distributor for Amelia Perez, cut all ties from her. That she's not allowed to go to the award shows anymore.
Yep.
They removed her image and likeness from all the posters and FYC marketing materials, and all that stuff.
Wow.
Nobody's mentioned her in any of the wins that they've gotten on the tour where they're on, making speeches. Nobody's thanked her. None of that stuff.
Wow.
So she's essentially being erased from the campaign because I guess they are at least hopeful that maybe the rest of the 13 nominations won't suffer.
Right. It would
because of the actions of her.
Isn't she nominated for Best Actress?
Yes.
She is.
So doesn't she have to? Well, she doesn't have to. She doesn't have to be in attendance.
So my understanding is that she's still technically invited because, I mean, I guess they could uninvite her, but I think in order to do that, they would probably have to rescind her nomination, and they haven't done that. And they're not going to do it at this point because, like I said, voting ends tomorrow. So her nomination is definitely not rescinded. She was on the ballot. So I don't think, in other words, I think she could go, but Netflix has publicly said, by the way, this is not just insinuation. They publicly said, we're not going to pay for her to go. We're not bringing her with the rest of the crew to, because, Netflix pays for all these people to go to all these award shows the whole season and, hotels and whatever. So she's not part of that. So I guess if she decided to go, she would be able to. But I'm sure her publicist and other people are like, you need to stay as far away from there as possible. I mean, that's what I would be telling her. At least right now, maybe after the Oscars, if she wants to do some damage control or something like that. But I don't think that's the place to do it, because then you're taking away from the celebration of the movie, So
Right.
it's a weird thing, man. Weird thing. I've never seen anything like this as an Oscars fan. I've been watching it really closely for, a long time. And it's the craziest shit I've seen in terms of like a scandal.
I had a couple of thoughts. First of all, these tweets were found by this journalist, Sarah Hagi, and they were all posted between 2020 and 2021, and they've been deleted now. My question is, clearly Netflix ran an amazing Oscars campaign to get these 13 nominations. You're telling me nobody fucking scrolled back and did a little vetting of all these people, and you look in the tweets? I believe now I just saw articles saying that they are now going to vet the social media of people before, but it's too late now, because this is essentially like a bomb went off, and to take down this whole movie, it would be a shame, because I think Zoe Saldana was amazing, and some of them probably still deserve some awards, but she imploded this whole thing. It's fucking wild. How did they not see this?
We talked about that on the show when it first broke, and it is really weird, especially a company like Netflix. It's not like an independent, movie production company, but it's Netflix. So I can't. I mean, I guess in a way it's good that they didn't, so that we know what we're dealing with. You know what I mean? Because this is it was some real hateful shit that she was spewing like less than 5 years ago. So I don't know. My co-host Nick had a point when we talked about it, is that we're sure that it has happened where like Universal or Warner Brothers or whoever, had an up and coming actor or actress, and they skimmed the social media and they found all the shit and they probably deleted it. That shit's probably happened. You know what I mean? I don't know who, or we'll never know. You know what I mean? But it just really is, to your point, Imran, it's just fascinating that a movie with this much spotlight on it, like I said, just one shy of the record for the Academy Awards, wasn't vetted a little more closely. I mean, it's really strange to me. It would be one thing if it was like an independent movie house with like two dudes running it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
this is Netflix.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I asked a coworker who's a big Oscar buddy about his opinion on Emilia Perez, and maybe like right after we recorded, maybe a week or so after. And he was like, "Oh, that movie's, I think they just torpedoed that movie with all the stuff this lady said."
Mm-hmm.
So I was aware that this happened. I guess the question is, what does this do towards the Oscars? I guess fill us in too, like who's won Best Picture? Has Emilia Perez won anything in the lead up?
The first award show that voting would have been open when the controversy broke was the BAFTAs, basically the British Oscars. And that just happened this past weekend, and Emilia Perez won International Film there, and Zoe Saldana won Supporting Actress. So now Zoe's won every supporting award so far. She's won every major televised award, and she's easily the front runner for the supporting Oscar as well. So I think that obviously Carla's not going to win. She's obviously going to be the most affected because it was her comments. But I think the movie is still going to win probably 2 or 3 Oscars is what I'm predicting. I'm saying Zoe Saldana is going to win. It's going to win original song, most likely. It has 2 in that category of 5 nominees. And they're not very good this year. So there's a banger in the movie called El Mal. It's really good that actually Zoe performs in the movie. So that'll probably win original song. And then it might pick up one more tech below the line. But I'm saying 2, maybe 3 for that movie. So it is going to get recognized. Zoe Saldana is kind of transforming herself to the face of that film because of what happened. But honestly, she already was the face of the film for me.
Right.
Because I didn't like anything else in it but her.
Yeah.
I mean, so she was already the only thing I really, forgave about the film. So, I think the residual effects are going to be, it's not going to, walk away with like, a mantle full of Oscars like it could have. It's going to walk away with 2 or 3. So, no movie, by the way, and another reason why I say that, no movie that's ever received at least 12 nominations or more has walked away empty-handed.
Oh.
So if it walked away with 0, it would be the first time in history that ever happened.
So,
and I just don't know if the controversy is that impactful. I think it's going to win something.
Who is, so then now...
Who's the front runner?
Exactly. Yeah. Now that we're here, what's the
Mhm.
new Gerald Morris from Awards Garage Peas in a Pod? What is
Well,
what is the front runner now?
we have so much more clarity now than when I was on the show a few weeks ago because Nora, which if you guys remember was one of my favorite films of the year, is the 99.9% your best picture this year.
Oh,
It
shit.
won last weekend. It won the Critics' Choice Award for Best Movie. It won the PGA, which is the Producers Guild of America. It won the DGA for Sean Baker,
Whoa.
which was like the trifecta. So the only thing it hasn't won yet is the Screen Actors Guild Awards, but that's coming up. That would be Mikey Madison in the lead role. But she did just win the BAFTA too, which is another huge precursor. So Honora is like on a tear right now.
It won the
And-
BAFTA Best Picture.
It didn't win Best Picture. That went to Conclave.
Yeah.
But it did win. They do this casting award, and it did win casting, and it won. Mikey Madison won for Best Actress. But I just saw this stat today that no film that has won the PGA, the DGA, and the CCA, which it won, those three, no film that has won all three of those has not gone on to win Best Picture, except for Brokeback Mountain. That was the only time that a movie won all three of those and didn't win Best Picture.
Okay.
So it's looking really, really good for Honora, and that's going to be my easy prediction. And then if it loses, it'll just be like a shock. But I mean, you can't not predict Honora at this point.
Is it Gerald Morris's one? Is it deserved? Is it, and two? Is it Gerald Morris's pick for Best Picture?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite among the bunch is Dune Part 2, but I also am a realist that the Academy are a bunch of snobs when it comes to genre and sci-fi and that kind of stuff. And they also undervalued Denis Villeneuve and that film this year, even though it got, I think, 6 nominations, but they were all pretty much technical ones with the exception of Best Picture. And I just don't, they know that Messiah is coming and they know that it's the middle part of a trilogy. Plus, they already awarded it back in 2021. I think it won like 4 or 5 technical awards a few years ago. So I knew that that one was not going to be in the conversation for Best Picture, even though that's my favorite. So my runner-up is definitely Honora, and I think it has the best chance among the ones that I would be, lifting up. So to answer your question, yes to both of those.
Yes to both of those. I got one more question. This one's a curveball, one that Imran probably doesn't even expect because I didn't ask him.
Oh boy!
Of the 2020s thus far, there's been 4 Oscars. Best Picture: Oppenheimer, Everything Ever All at Once, Coda, Nomadland. Which one's your favorite of those 4?
Oh, that's a really good question.
So it was Oppenheimer, Nomadland, Everything Everywhere, and Coda.
And let's throw in Honora too, since you're so sure it's going to win.
Yeah, I think. Okay, so personal preference, Honora would be my favorite.
Even rank them, making it harder. Rank them.
All right, let's see. So Nomadland would be 5. I like it. It's just, I'm not going to be revisiting that film, and it was, it was a little slow for me. But
I don't want to. I don't want to see the lead actress naked in a creek anymore.
You learn about van life and stuff. It's very educational.
Number 4 would probably be Coda. I really did like that movie. I actually cried when I saw it the first time. I really did like it. I mean, Everything Everywhere was so special that year. And I mean, I still love that movie, but especially that year that it was happening, I was like, this is so great. Like, it's essentially a multiverse, like science fiction comedy where they're fighting each other with dildos and like it's winning Best Picture. Yeah. I mean, it's like crazy, So that would probably be my 3. And then I would say Oppenheimer and Honora, 2 and 1.
Wow. So Honora is the best of the winners.
Yeah, in my opinion. Yeah. Now, the best film, like objectively the best film, is probably Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
But for my personal preference, I would lean Honora.
Okay, last question. Let's leave out Honora. Of the 4 that have happened thus far, are there any Green Book-esque where you're like, damn it, how did the hell that win? Driving Miss Daisy.
Any Shakespeare in Love's there?
Not really, but what's ironic about that is if Emilia Perez, that would be an argument for that, because the Academy does that, man, where they like try to get on the right side of the PC argument, and they feel like they're doing something special by awarding a movie that may represent a marginalized group, and it's like you got to do more, like especially. in a situation like this is kind of biting them in the ass because they rained down on nominations. And even when that happened before we were even close to any controversy, I mean, you guys know I came on your show and talked about how much that movie sucks.
Right.
And that was pre any controversy. So a lot of people in the critical community were just like, what? Like, no, that movie sucks. Like, why would we nominate that movie so many times? And now it's kind of biting them in the ass because they did that. And it turns out their star is like a racist kind of, asshole. So it's like, it's almost like a bit of poetic justice in that way that they're kind of imploding on themselves.
They can't even honor the movie the way they want to because the person that is the face of the movie torpedoed themselves in the past.
Right.
How will they react? And that's the craziest thing is she, who is from a marginalized group in a movie that's progressive, is offensively shitting on other marginalized groups. It makes no sense.
Yeah, it's a sad thing, man. It really is.
Just because you're from a marginalized group doesn't mean you're automatic. Yeah, you're still. That doesn't dissuade you, or that doesn't bar you from being an asshole or being a racist.
I know, but I would think it would make you a little more tolerant and understanding of experiences. But I guess not. You still be an asshole. I guess.
Yeah.
I think my one problem of many problems. The one thing with the Oscars, and it looks like it's not going to happen this year, or let me. I guess I'll get your opinion. Is a lot of times the Oscars, like you mentioned, will award a movie because it's on what they think is the right side of PC or it's time. We need to honor the deaf community. We need to honor this, that,
right.
Or even like the actor awards or the director awards. Like a lot of the times, I feel as if they will award people because it's this like lifetime achievement, and they'll go. For example, I'll just pull some name out of the hat here, but like they'll go, Demi Moore, Best Actress. She hasn't ever won it.
Right.
It's her time, even though maybe she didn't have the best performance of this year. Do you think any of that will happen in these award nominees?
What you just said is extremely likely. I mean, right now, with Mikey Madison from Anora winning the BAFTA, she's in the race now. Yeah. But before that, she was not in the race. It was literally Demi Moore. And look, I love The Substance. We talked about that when I came on last time.
Right.
It was my number 4 movie of the year. I think it's amazing. And it's definitely remarkable they got nominated for an Academy Award based on what kind of film it is. But so her performance is good. But I'll just tell you right now, she's coasting in the front runner status because of her narrative. I mean, that period. Like the Academy and traditionally the industry, the awards bodies aren't voting for a gross body horror film like The Substance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's her success is at least like 70-30 because of the narrative that she's carrying right now of being in Hollywood for nearly 50 years and never winning anything for it. Mm-hmm. And she said that in her Golden Globe speech when she won the Globe. And ever since then, she's been, until the BAFTA, she was, perceived to be unstoppable. So I think right now what we have leading into, now of course we don't have the SAGs yet, but leading into the Oscars, what we have right now is a 2-headed race for lead actress where it's like, you have the narrative of Demi Moore, who is in her 50s, right? I think she might even be in her 60s, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think she's in her 60s. And you have this newcomer, Mikey Madison, who's 25 years old. So what you have is you have a narrative of an elder in Hollywood versus an actual performance. There's no narrative for Mikey Madison. She's just a youngster who gave a tremendous performance out of the gate,
Yeah.
And so now you have that argument that you were talking about, Tony, where it's like, are we voting for Demi Moore because it's her time? Or are we truly going to vote for the performance that really wowed us this year? You know what I mean?
Right.
And we'll kind of see which way they go. It's going to be like last year. I don't know if you guys followed it last year when it was Emma Stone for Poor Things versus Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. It was the same thing where it was like, there was a narrative, but then there was a performance that was considered to be a little bit better, like critically, like, around an umbrella around it. And, what ended up happening is it went to Emma Stone because I don't know why. That would have been another big narrative win, though, to your point, Tony, because that would have been the first Indigenous person to win an Academy Award. So that would have been huge for Lily Gladstone.
Yeah, and they didn't do that. Oh.
Yeah. So, it's, the Academy's different now. In the last 10 years has been changing so much. It's more international. It's younger. I mean, we'll see. I think Mikey should win it. And that's coming from somebody who is a horror head who loves The Substance. I mean, look, I wouldn't be pissed if Demi won it. I think it would be a great win for her and a great win for horror. But if I'm casting a ballot, I'm voting for Mikey Madison because I personally am voting on the performances that I saw.
Right.
And of those two front-running performances, Mikey Madison had the best
Had the
one, in my
stronger
opinion.
performance. Huh. Interesting. Yeah.
Yep.
So it may be a Nora Best Picture now.
Yeah,
You know,
I think so.
A lot of people were calling The Brutalist before, but I feel like clearly it's still wide open. There's going to be no sweeps. It may be a thing where one movie gets one award, like everybody gets something spread out.
You get a car.
You
And you get a
look under your seat. There's a Oscars award for you.
I will say it's a really exciting year. I mean, it really is. You know, it's not. Me and Tony joke around about covering it. That one year was like 21 or whatever, but even
probably
that
the worst
was
year.
Yes.
yeah, even that was less exciting. You know, so I mean, it's an exciting year. I think that Anora is out front, but to your point, The Brutalist is probably number 3, right behind Anora and Conclave.
Okay.
Conclave had a great showing at the BAFTAs, which showed really good international support for that movie. And it's the SAGs coming up this weekend. The SAGs have multiple nominations for not only Conclave and Anora, but also Wicked, which is still kind of floating around in the top 4 or so for Best Picture too. So it's like to your point, it could be kind of crazy.
The momentum
We'll see.
from different movies, they're like it's like peaking here and there all right before. So it's going to be exciting, I think, like you said. Listener,
I vote for Godzilla -1.
that wasn't
Hell
this
yeah.
year. This,
No, but that one visual effects last year, the Oscars.
that was amazing.
That was awesome.
Listener, let us know what you think's going to take home Best Picture. Join this conversation. Join our Facebook group. It's called Jock and Nerd Nation. Jock and Nerd. Jock and Nerd. It is a closed, exclusive, private group just for you listening right now. Yes, for you. Join it. One more thing in the news. It kind of ties in to the Oscars as well. But I wanted to get, Gerald, since you're here, your thoughts on the state of streaming television versus linear television. Because the Hollywood Reporter put out this interesting article titled "The End of TV is Here." Look, we've talked about this over the years as streaming gets more and more prevalent and linear TV, which is your traditional TV ratings drop. And we've always said the one holdout, the one thing keeping linear TV alive is the live events, which would be your sports and kind of most of your award shows. Well, now a lot of those sports are on various multiple streaming services. And on March 2nd, the night the Oscars is on, for the first time in history, the Oscars will be broadcast on ABC and stream live on Hulu. Oh, shit. They've never done that before. It's one of the last kind of live broadcasts to jump on streaming. I got a couple of stats here, and then I just want to hear from you guys what you're paying for. What do you think the problem is, where this is going? So in 2024, 14 of Nielsen's top 50 broadcasts were exclusive to traditional pay TV. It's mostly sports on Fox and ESPN. By 2026, that number will be 0. Oh, shit. Every single top viewed event will be available on some standalone streamer. Netflix has jumped into the game, obviously, this last year with the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight, some live tennis events, and the Super Bowl, this recent Super Bowl that Nielsen has reported 127.7 million people tuned in. That is the largest audience for a single network telecast in TV history. It was streaming on Tubi for free this year. And that pulled in 13.6 million viewers. That's almost 10% of that 127 million, which is crazy. If you didn't have pay TV, you could watch the Super Bowl for free on Tubi. Now, Gerald, how many things are you subscribed to?
Well, you know, I mean, this, just hearing you talk about this was kind of like upsetting me more and more as you went through it. But
yes,
but you know, it's funny because when we moved into this house, which I've been in this house for about 15 years, and when we moved here initially, we didn't bring cable. We had cable before in our previous townhouse where my wife and I lived. When we moved here, we decided not to transfer our cable over, and we did what they call cut the cord, you know, and we just got an antenna put on the roof of our house, and we were able to pick up most of the local channels that way for live stuff like you're talking about. And then we had like Netflix and Hulu at the time. Well, now I don't even know. Like I have probably at least 10 streaming services.
Holy shit.
Especially if you factor in music and stuff
Yeah.
like Spotify.
Yeah.
And I don't really watch live TV anymore. Not necessarily by choice, but just because, we were talking about my kids before we started recording. I mean, people with families, like maybe it's more convenient for them to throw on, Matlock on Hulu when they have time to sit down and watch it, as opposed to sitting down exactly 9 p.m. on Friday night to watch it if you have kids screaming in your face or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just think the simple answer is the future. I mean, it's like we were talking about AI when I came on with you guys last time and the brutalist AI thing came up. I mean, it's the future. I mean, we cannot be happy about it, or we can, cancel this subscription because they're doing this or that or whatever. But 10 years from now, 20 years from now, like I don't know where network TV is going to fit into the whole thing.
Yeah,
they're going to have to come up with honestly, most network companies have their own streaming service as well. So, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And I didn't even know about the Super Bowl Tubi thing. Yeah. So that's really telling,
That was huge.
And then I mentioned Netflix doing the SAG Awards this weekend, which is the second year they've done that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I don't know when it's going to stop or if it's going to stop. I think it's the future. So,
so I subscribe to probably 9 things and a direct TV, traditional paid TV for the TV. I don't know why. There's just something comforting about having a guide with the channels there. But I would argue that we thought it was going to be better than cable. And where we are now, I think it has now become worse than what we had with cable. It is costlier than cable. And if you want to save money and get all the ad-supported tiers, you can't fucking fast forward through commercials. So they have figured out a way to get you sitting through fucking commercials, which is annoying. And it's costing me more than cable. I thought this was supposed to be better. We've almost come full circle. It's kind of annoying. Anthony, I want to know from you for sports and football. Somebody said this, and it was a really good point. I think it was Bill Maher on his show. I can't remember. He was like, I used to be able to watch 2 football games at the same time. How? There was a simple button on my remote. It was the previous channel. You press one button, you flip back and forth between football games. And he goes, now you don't have to do. I got to back out of this one game, go back, go to the other streaming app, scroll down here, scroll over here, press start. And it's very annoying. Do you have trouble following where all the football is this season? Did you?
I like that you like you couldn't stop with your questions. So you asked me, did you at the end? Well, I have YouTube TV, so I'm able to watch a lot of the football, and it is a little bit harder in terms of switching last channel. I haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah.
That's something that we need to implement on these streaming YouTube TV, whatever the hell else there is. I forget. I'm losing track of the names of the other streaming.
Well, Hulu and Disney Plus and ESPN.
No, I'm saying like the ones that replicate cable. There's like YouTube TV,
or like
and then
Sling
there's some other
or Roku.
Sling.
Yeah.
So that's something. I mean, for as far as overall thoughts, I do agree. This is now become just as expensive, if not more expensive, than cable.
Yeah,
so it's not a time saver, and you're getting ads. So like they have basically pulled the rug out from underneath us, the rug boy, perhaps.
Yeah.
Even.
Oh.
I guess the real benefit though is it's not exactly the same as how it used to be in that you have on demand, so you can watch whatever you want to watch as soon as you want to watch it.
Sure.
You don't have to wait around. So there is that. But I mean, yeah, we've all kind of been hoodwinked with this, and it's not even just the future. It is now. This is what it is. I still keep a YouTube TV because there are sports that stream on those regular channels, and I split it with my mom because she still kind of enjoys that old school feel, but even she's watching Netflix and Paramount and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's going to come a point where you're not even going to need like a YouTube TV or a Sling because all these things are going to be on the streamers that I already have, and I have a bunch. So,
and I mean, YouTube just Google released their quarterly earnings from last quarter, and they're like more people are now just watching YouTube on their television. Using YouTube TV. Yeah. So I
watch YouTube on my television, not only YouTube TV, but YouTube.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. It's just YouTube in general. They're seeing more and more views from TV sets.
That's the majority of my TV watching
That's
is actually
crazy.
when I'm not watching live sports.
Yeah.
I'm throwing on or a Netflix or a movie. I'm throwing on YouTube to watch.
So, but neither
Feels
of
fair.
you guys pay for cable TV, correct?
Well, I mean, he has YouTube TV, and so do I. Which
But see, I don't count that. That I would think is like
No,
a
but it's like
streaming
a
platform.
faux. It's
Yeah.
like a faux cable, I guess.
It's like cable streaming cable. So it is not in the sense that you have to plug into a cable,
Right.
but it does in essence replace cable TV because it's the same thing.
Huh, interesting. But there's no box. See, I would consider those services
No.
like your Comcast, DirecTV.
No, you're diabolical for having a dish. I don't know what you're doing.
No, it's not a dish. It's DirecTV, like cable TV.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all.
It's like it's like a Comcast. It's the same thing.
I
It's,
know that. I don't
Yeah.
exactly. Imran, you're explained. I know what it is. I just don't understand why you have it.
I don't
How much are you paying for that a month?
really need it.
How much? Just out of curiosity, how much?
For just the TV? So it's all part of my AT&T package is the thing because I get internet and TV and the cell phone for them.
Got it. Okay, well then that's different.
And
Fine.
that's why
You're
I did
bundling.
it.
That's
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
The
Well,
bundling
yeah.
makes it okay.
But it is annoying that they got us by the balls and it's become all come back to cable and I can't fucking skip through these commercials. And I watch, you guys know, I watch a shit ton of TV. Half of the time I'm trying to figure out what show is on what fucking streamer that I got to catch up on. And
There's another side of this argument I just want to touch on real quick, and I wonder what Tony will say about this, being a little bit younger than you and I am, Ron.
Yeah.
By a little bit, I mean decades. The nostalgia part is kind of what sucks too, because this argument comes up with movie theaters too, by the way, which I'm always going to opt to go to the cinema to see a movie, but if I didn't want to, I don't have to. I can just wait a couple weeks and I'll be able to watch it at home, if not sooner.
Yeah.
And with TV, I can remember when I was a kid or a teenager in high school or whatever, having to be there 8:00 with my folks to watch, Golden Girls or whatever, show we watched every week. And there was something special about that. Now being able to reflect on it, that it does kind of suck when I think my kids they don't even know what that is.
Right.
They're not even they're going to think that's some weird, folktale that I'm making up that you had to do that, because it's so foreign to the way things work now. So
event TV,
that part
thing of the past.
is really sucks.
No, the best was the in between these things, which is still the best, is just a DVR on the network TV, because that way you can start late, you record it, you skip through the commercials, you can watch it when you want. But yeah, that event TV, like when MASH ended, it was 10 million people watched this shit at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's crazy, man. And even as recently as a show like The Sopranos, I can remember every Sunday night I was like, where am I? I got to fucking be home, 9:00.
Yeah.
Sopranos Sunday night. I got to see what Tony's whacking this week or whatever.
HBO had Sunday nights locked down every time.
Yeah.
I mean, the last time it was an event, I don't think it's been since OJ was in the White Bronco. We haven't seen anything like that. Everybody tuning in on a live TV event. That's the only thing that would bring America together.
Imran, you're missing every Super Bowl that's happened since then, but all right.
Oh, okay. Well, there's Super Bowls. Yeah.
I mean, you're right, though, in that, or Gerald is right. Imran's never right. Gerald is right in that the shared viewing experience for TV shows and movies is pretty much gone. The only shared experiences we have for TV is live sports or live music events or award shows or politics. Those are the things that people are all watching and reacting to live. The only time you're ever going to get that now with movies is for those big event films, right? Like your Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man No Way Home, Barbenheimer. Those are the communal experiences. I think that's leading into our movie discussion later.
Yeah.
I think that's why when a big movie releases that hooks, I think it does still bring back that nostalgia for people, and I think that's why event type of films still sometimes will do really well, because of the fact that we're craving. I think people generally want to enjoy things together live, and there's less of that because of the fact that TV is switched to streaming, so you don't have to be on time for anything. So I think that's why concerts and those big movies, I think, will continue to do well because of the fact that we enjoy these communal events. It's just there's just less movies that can bring people in like that. So if it's not a big event where it feels like, if I don't watch this movie at this time this weekend, I've missed out on something, then those movies won't obviously do as well.
And from the TV aspect, remind me, but I feel like this happened really quickly too, because didn't we have the communal viewing experience for the most part with like Game of Thrones?
Yep.
I can remember that recently.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like
Game
that
of Thrones. Game of Thrones. I remember Walking Dead and Breaking Bad. Like those, I remember Sunday nights, Walking Dead and Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Like those were all must-see viewing experiences. So I think those potentially could come back. Due to the fact that like a lot of streamers will release stuff on a weekly basis. Go ahead, Gerald.
Well, I was going to say, I think to your point though, somebody would have to, like a television studio or streamer or whatever, would have to like collectively decide, like, we're going to release this show like this so that we can promote the share viewing experience where we're only going to air it at this time on this night, and then you won't be able to see it. Like, you know, we're not going to put it on streaming for like a week, let's just say, until the new one comes out or something like that. Like, but I mean, who's going to do that? Because obviously then they're going to be sacrificing money and like subscriptions and whatever. So I just think that as much as it might suck, I just think that that is kind of going by the wayside, and that we're heading, like you said, we're already there, really. I mean, you know, you can stream anything you want. You don't have to wait for anything. I mean, unless it's the Super Bowl.
I think HBO's strategy will still work, like with House of the Dragon. And the next season of House of the Dragon, it releases on HBO on traditional TV, like 9 p.m., whatever, but they drop it online also at the same time. So there's no advantage, and everybody's kind of watching at the same time.
You have to have a really big hit show.
Yeah.
Like House of the Dragon can work for that. I remember, I mean, this is going to be blasphemous to say, but I vividly remember when WandaVision, when Marvel first released their Disney Plus stuff and it was weekly.
Yeah.
WandaVision, I mean, if you didn't catch that the night it came out, or the day after it came out, because it would come out at midnight Pacific, so 2 or 3, depending where you were located. Yeah. If you didn't watch that, like reaction videos were out, people were tweeting about it. Like I remember that being appointment television. So
and that's another, that's another element too, is that you can't miss it, or you have to avoid social media until you see it.
Yes, the middle of the night drop is annoying because you either watch it when you wake up or don't look at. You can't look at the internet until you get home from work and watch it. I think if you do the online release, you got to do it in the evening and make it still feel like TV, like prime time. But then it just becomes TV again, which was fine.
It was so bad. It's gotten so bad that when I know I'm going to be reviewing a movie on my podcast, like, because our episodes release like you guys on Wednesday. Yeah. So we're covering whatever came out usually the previous Friday. Do you know what I mean? So it got so bad on social media where I don't want to be swayed of my opinion of the film by reading my friends' opinions of it, that I literally started muting hashtags. Have you guys ever done that? So I'll mute hashtags on Twitter.
Yeah.
So like when a movie's coming out a couple weeks before it comes out, if I know we're going to be reviewing it, I'll just go in and mute all the hashtags, and then I'll turn them off after I do my review. That's how bad it is. You can't, you know, and Twitter knows what movies you like and what you're going to see and all that shit. So
yeah, it does. You try not to see it, but it's hard to avoid it. Anyways, theaters will still be around. Live traditional TV may not be around in the next maybe 5-10 years. We'll see. But we'll take a break here, fellas. What are we going to do, Anthony?
Oh, I think we're going to play some promos.
We're going to play some promos. We'll be right back. Captain America Brave New World review right after this.
Oh boy.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Was A Quiet Place inspired by Signs, It Comes at Night, and War for the Planet of the Apes? Was Ready Player One influenced by Avatar, Wreck-It Ralph, and The Last Starfighter? Is The Hurricane Heist more influenced by Sharknado or Geostorm? These are the kinds of questions my guest co-hosts and I discuss on my podcast, Piecing It Together. Every week, we look at a new movie and try to figure out what other movies inspired it. Whether it's the story, the character development, tone, or even use of music. Every movie was influenced by something that came before it, and we want to figure out what. Check out Piecing It Together on your favorite podcast app, or check us out on piecingpod.com. You can also follow us on social media at piecingpod. Piecing It Together is a part of the All Points West podcast network.
Hey there, everyone. Brian here, host of TV Trivia Pod. It's a trivia-style podcast focusing on TV and movies. Listen in for questions like, what's the name of Michael Scott's screenplay? What do you say to view the Marauders map? And what's everyone eating in the post-credit scene of Avengers? Play along to TV Trivia Pod anywhere you get podcasts. And stay tuned for more trivia. Jock and Nerd.
Listener, if you enjoy this show, this is a great time to join our Patreon fan club. Visit jockandnerd.com/Patreon. Jock and Nerd. And you can give back and join our awesome Patreon community. We love each and every one of you for your continued support. But you get stuff like access to an exclusive podcast feed where the shows come out early. There's bonus content. You would have heard our instant reactions to the movie we're about to review. And Rugboy is continuing his hate watch of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. And you can hear him talk about episodes 3.
It's a good show.
5 through 6 through 8. The second set, he's got a good reaction on Patreon. Definitely worth the price of Patreon. You can also join us for our monthly Discord hangouts. They're tons of fun. The next one is this week. It will be the day after the show posts, Thursday, February 20. You can join us then, sign up, or join us next month. We do it every month. Can't wait to see everybody there. Lots of other fun stuff on the Patreon. jockandnerd.com/Patreon. Check it out. All right. Oh boy, we're here. Back into the MCU first movie of 2025. We are about to review Captain America, Brave New World. Here's your spoilers.
Strap yourselves in, you fucks. Spoiler time.
Oh, I should have played the Captain America spoiler alert. You know what? I'm going to play that one too.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Prepare to be spoiled.
That's appropriate. Captain America, Brave New World. This is the 4th Captain America movie. The 35th MCU movie. 35? It's 35. Wow. And the second of 9 things Marvel Studios is releasing this year across the big screen and the small screen. This movie was originally titled Captain America New World Order, and it was supposed to come out May 3rd of last year, 2024. So this is where we are. We'll get into why. And apparently this is the start of Phase 5, Anthony. Is that correct? It's the start of it? I think it's a...
Oh, wow. Let me check.
Isn't that crazy? It is Phase 5 of the MCU.
You might be right. I'll confirm.
Okay.
Continue.
On the Rotten Tomatoes, fellas, this thing right now is holding a 50% critic tomato meter rating and an 80% audience rating. Very interesting. That critics rating puts it above Eternals and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, but below the Marvels and Thor: Love and Thunder. Very interesting.
By the way, you're wrong.
I'm wrong?
This is just a movie in Phase 5. The official start of Phase 5 was Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh, Quantumania was the start of Phase 5? Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so we're like we're in Phase 5. I'm wrong. What else is...
You're always, as per usual.
What else is surprising? The budget of this movie reportedly $180 million. But I've seen some reports, because of all the reshoots, it may have been up to like $300 million with marketing and reshoots. But they're reporting $180 million. Here is the big number. What did it open with? Well, last week, if you heard us, it was projected to open about $90 million. We all chose over-unders, and I think we all chose under. And it was under, opening 3-day, $88 million. The 4-day, because it's President's Day, $100 million. Currently, worldwide, though, it is made $192 million. So it's not bad. It does open at number 1. It will have little competition over the next few weeks. And this is Marvel's 35 for 35 with number 1 opening films. Every movie it's opened number 1. This is also the 4th best President's Day launch ever, apparently. The movie, directed by Julius Ona, who has done The Cloverfield Paradox and this movie Loose. So he only has 2 movie credits, right? From a screenplay by Rob Edwards and the writing teams of Malcolm Spellman and Dalen Moosen and Julius Ona and Peter Glanz. Malcolm Spellman also wrote Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I have just interject real quick for reference as far as the opening weekend and where that ranks for Marvel.
Yes.
This movie is, let's see here, 12. How many movies have there been?
35.
So this is the 23rd or 22nd best opening.
Oh,
So
out of 35.
kind of like in the middle-ish.
In the middle, yeah.
Movies that are comparable in terms of opening would be your original Guardians of the Galaxy from 2014, Winter Soldier, Far From Home,
Okay.
Thor: The Dark World, Doctor Strange, Black Widow, like kind of in that range.
That kind of opening. Yeah, that the Rotten Tomato score is the third lowest.
Yes.
In The Thing, which is crazy. So I just want to.
No, the Thing is in Fantastic Four.
The Thing, not that thing. I do want to mention this whole the behind the camera, the director and the writers. Just going to mention, not a lot of credits to their name, and the writers especially a lot of television writing in their IMDb credits. So not a lot of experience here behind the screen. In front of the screen, of course, you got Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson, Harrison Ford as President Ross, recast from the late William Hurt. You got Danny Ramirez as Joaquin Torres, Shira Haas as Ruth Bat Seraph, Carl Lumley's in this, Isaiah Bradley, Tim Blake Nelson returning from the Hulk as Samuel Stearns, Giancarlo Esposito, who's also kind of in everything, is the Sidewinder, and a couple other people. Who else do we need to mention? That's really the main cast there. This movie is rated PG-13 and is an hour and 58 minutes. Anthony.
Yes.
What happens in Captain America: Brave New World?
Captain America: Brave New World continues off of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Endgame, where Sam Wilson, played by Anthony Mackie, is the new Captain America. He is fighting crime or fighting, acting on the behalf of the U.S. He doesn't have any superpowers, but he does have a vibranium-laced wingsuit that helps him out. And as he is helping the president, who is now Thaddeus Ross, played by Harrison Ford because William Hurt died, there is a race towards the new precious minerals or precious metals that are located on Celestial Island, which is a follow-up from the Eternals. And in this race to get the metals and to broker a deal with the world to not cause any war, a assassination attempt on the president uncovers a mystery / investigation into someone behind the strings pulling some things to manipulate the world into a war.
Yeah, pretty good synopsis.
I just came up with that right now, so if that doesn't make any sense.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Wait, I wanted to ask one thing. Going back to the monies and opening night, I saw this on Thursday. My theater was full.
I had a full theater as well on Thursday.
Yeah,
night.
mine was also.
Really
yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
We went on Saturday at 11 a.m. and it was full.
Saturday 11 a.m. was full. Yeah, mine was the Thursday at 7.
And you're in the mountains in Tennessee, so I know that's crazy.
People had to travel a long way. Gerald, I'm going to have you start with the opening thoughts first. But
yeah, have him start.
Yes, because you're our guest.
God.
But I want to get a baseline. I need to know if you've watched these three properties. You've seen the 2008 Incredible Hulk?
Yes. So that was pre me jumping ship. So
Okay.
I haven't seen it in a long time
Okay.
though. So
Did you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
yeah. So what
You
I was going to
did?
tell you
No.
is kind of in my general thoughts. What I was going to tell you is that the last Disney Plus or the last Marvel show I watched was Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I was underwhelmed with it though.
Yeah.
I didn't think that it was, I really liked WandaVision, which was before it.
Yeah. Have you seen the Eternals?
No.
Okay. Well, that's great. That's all I need to know.
Have you seen all the Captain America films?
Yes.
Okay.
I've seen all of those.
Okay.
And like I said, so this to me played as kind of an unofficial sequel to The Incredible Hulk, which I think is weird.
Yes.
From 2008. I also was a little annoyed. Now, I liked the movie. I didn't hate it. And that's coming from somebody that's a casual fan of this type of stuff, at least right now in my life. So I liked it. I was kind of annoyed with different things about it, though. Like, I felt like it was essentially a 2-hour movie version of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like, it was him wondering if he's worthy enough to be Captain America for 2 hours when we've already done 8 episodes of that. So that kind of annoyed me a little bit as like an overall kind of theme to this movie. Like, I feel like at this point, Sam should know he's Captain America and be confident with it and just be that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't really understand that angle. The throwback to the '08 Hulk stuff wasn't necessarily bad tie-in. I just was a little confused because I was trying to remember stuff from, what was that, 15 years, 16 years ago?
Yeah.
Which I can't really.
And I mean, that's not to interject, but that's a really, I am going to interject. So I am interjecting.
No, go ahead. Yeah. You're interjecting as we speak. Yeah.
That is a movie that's almost been forgotten.
Yep.
And basically the entirety of that cast is no longer either played in the MCU because the actor has been pushed out or dead. So that's a very obscure movie to do a sequel to, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. And I loved the Red Hulk stuff. I'm sure we'll talk about that in detail at some point, but the last 20 minutes of the movie I thought were great. I don't think the Red Hulk was played as the core villain in the movie. I think it was more for just to have that kind of action spectacle and great effects, by the way. I didn't, there's some really shitty green screen stuff and reshoots that are obvious in this movie, but the Red Hulk stuff I thought was top tier in terms of effects. But the Tim Blake Nelson character, what was his name? The leader, what's his name?
Samuel Stearns. Yes.
Samuel Stearns. Yeah. Like that. His look was just stupid. It looked like a Halloween costume to me. I just didn't really, I don't know. I love him as an actor.
Yeah.
And I thought he did a great job. Line deliveries and stuff. And he's a good actor, but his motivation seemed weird. I never bought, he's basically the smartest man in the world, he used his intelligence to orchestrate a war. I mean, I don't know. It was a weird motivation for him to have. I mean, I get why he would want revenge against Harrison Ford, but I just didn't understand that really elaborate plan for revenge.
Yeah, it's a little convoluted.
Yeah, so I mean, aside from some awesome action, which mostly involved the Hulk or the Red Hulk, it was just kind of it's fine. You just walk out and you go, it's okay. I will tell you, my 11-year-old went with me, Logan.
Yeah.
And he fucking loved it. He ate it up. Nice. He thought it was great. Nice. He came home and was watching different clips from it and trailers and shit. So he's always been a pretty big fan of Captain America anyway. But I did have to explain to him why it wasn't Chris Evans here. What the whole deal was because he didn't watch Falcon and Winter Soldier. So
can I just tell you, in my theater when the leader was revealed, I just heard this one kid go, "Ew!" Real loud. It was fucking hilarious. Kind of ruined the whole moment, but it was really funny.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's fine. I mean, it's fine.
Okay,
it's okay.
Anthony, opening thoughts overall. How'd you feel once the movie ended?
Yeah, the way I felt and the way things have evolved these past few days. My opinion on the movie has been maybe changed a little, but still somewhat similar to what I said on the initial Patreon instant reaction that was out. Plug for Patreon there. This movie, we discussed this movie a lot on this show leading up, and we knew, I think we, as a non-casual fan, as someone that follows this, I almost knew too much. Mm-hmm. So I knew, this movie had gone through a lot of reshoots, and there's 5 writers on the screenplay. The people that they originally had doing this were the people that did Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which was not the best show that they've ever done. So it was already set up for failure. And then you have Marvel. Marvel's also going through this transition where they've realized that they've greenlit a ton of shit, or red lit in this case, a ton of shit, and the scripts were not really there. And now they're kind of trying to course correct on the fly with some of these movies that had release dates, had completed footage, and need to come out at a certain time. We're really not going to see what Marvel truly has up their sleeve until we watch, in my opinion, Fantastic Four.
Or even Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts to a lesser extent, although I think Thunderbolts was greenlit and shot prior to this transition within Marvel where they're like, fuck, we're really screwing up everything.
Yeah.
So it's Thunderbolts maybe. I think your Daredevil and your Fantastic Four will be the quote unquote rebirth of Marvel.
Yeah.
So all that to say is I came into this movie with very low expectations. I thought the trailers were very well cut, but I knew what was I knew what was happening behind the scenes, and I also saw a lot of the reviews coming out right even before where one of the lowest rated Captain America movies and all that shit. So coming in with low expectations, I'll say right off the bat, I was entertained by the movie. Like I didn't think it was terrible. Now it's clear this movie has been really stitched together. Like there's a lot of stuff that meanders or doesn't make sense or things drop. Like for example, Sidewinder's character literally shows up, barely has any scenes with Anthony Mackie, and then just drops out before the third act. Like he's just not there anymore. And you can see like there's a lot of exposition dumps because they're trying to like weave together all this disparate footage to make sense of to make a plot that's somewhat coherent. I would say this movie is basically Temu Winter Soldier. Like it goes beat for beat, like Winter Soldier. You have this mystery in the beginning with a super soldier. You have the reveal of someone pulling the strings behind the lead. In Winter Soldier, it was the guy in the what was the fucking name? Arnim Zola. In this one, it's the leader.
Yeah.
You have a smart guy. You have like this unraveling of a mystery.
You got a president, or was there?
You got a president. Well, you didn't. Well, you got an old guy, so you got Harrison Ford. In the old one, you had Robert Redford. Yeah, so it's very beat for beat.
Yeah.
I think this movie really kind of loses itself in the middle. I think the action is okay. There is some really spotty CGI. There's some really bad green screen. The one I can think of right off the bat is Anthony Mackie, where he's talking to Red Hulk at the end, and it cuts to him, and he's like looking up, and you can clearly see it's green screen behind him.
With the cherry blossoms.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible. The Red Hulk I liked. That was good. I thought the initial like mystery of what's happening, I found that to be intriguing, and I found that to be in line with what Captain America films are. I think this film really suffers being a pseudo sequel to The Incredible Hulk, like I mentioned earlier with Gerald Morris. Why am I saying your full name? I can just call you Harris.
My government name, bro. What's going on?
I think it really suffers being that because in essence, it almost becomes a Thaddeus Ross redemption story.
Yeah.
And it becomes like a Thaddeus Ross daughter movie, like him and Betty. And I'm just
that whole thing was weird too.
Yeah, and I'm just not invested in that at all. Like I would have actually preferred this movie be more about not necessarily like if he deserves to be Cap, but more like they kind of like hint at a black Captain America and like being controlled by the government. Like how do you reconcile being this black man that's obviously has seen what happened to another black Captain America and how they mistreated him, but yet you're working with the government. Like there's something interesting there, and there's also something interesting of him being like, I never took the serum, like I can't really live up. Like I think there's some interesting points there, but this isn't really, I don't feel like we get a full hero's journey in this. I actually feel like the hero's journey or like the journey we get is more Thunderbolt Ross, which I think is really odd.
Yeah.
So I think this movie is just kind of it's definitely a mess. There's a lot of things going on. Is it entertaining? Yeah, in some points it is entertaining. But ultimately, I think, unfortunately, like what this movie is going to be most remembered for is it's just ultimately really forgettable. And a lot of people are going to use this movie as an opportunity to shit on Marvel and dance all over its grave. And I can't really, I don't think it's like that bad. Like I've seen people be like, this is just as bad as the Sony films. I'm like, are you kidding me? Those movies are horrible. This movie is like at least somewhat like passable.
Yeah.
It's just the bar has been raised on Marvel by like the general consumer. And like they're not going to deal with movies like this that have clearly been stitched together, had probably a terrible plot to start. And like you have really spotty CGI. And, at the end of the day, I mean, like in the action scenes, I like the Red Hulk Falcon stuff or Captain America, but like, the rest of the action scenes are pretty forgettable. Some of it's like you can clearly see Anthony Mackie's not even in it. You also have like a weird, like Falcon is almost got, I've heard this on The Big Picture and I completely agree. Falcon's got like Robin vibes. Like what is he?
Oh.
He's just literally like, hey, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Hey, okay, I'm going to get hurt now. Like there's no arc for him at all. It's just, and then you have like, when I go with Temu Winter Soldier, I mean, you have this lady that's a Black Widow. She's kind of Black Widow, but she's not really that interesting. So it's just not that memorable, I think. And it's ultimately kind of unfortunate that this was the first Captain America movie for Anthony Mackie, because I actually think he's all right. I like him.
Yeah.
I liked his the best scenes, in my opinion, are him and Harrison Ford interacting. The movie makes a ton of weird choices with what the plot is and where they're going, and it's super. I mean, for those that know that it was rewritten, and reshot, you can see those clear stitches in the movie. So, yeah. My long-winded answer of saying it's all right, but ultimately kind of disappointing.
I have details about. There's like another movie they made, and tons of stuff left on the cutting.
I'm very
floor.
curious what that other movie
So
was.
I have some notes about that, but I'm same with you guys, right? Honestly, after hearing all the behind the scenes and the reshoots and the test screenings went well, I didn't think it was as bad as I thought it was going to be. I also went in with lowered expectations. I was mildly entertained, but it is, solidly average, like mediocre. The first 30, 40 minutes, I was like, this is all right. It's going pretty good. The middle of it, Anthony, you're right, gets convoluted and confusing. And then I fucking loved everything with the Red Hulk, from when he transforms to the end. I had a big smile on my face. Imagine had they never shown that in the trailer, it would have been fucking amazing. What an amazing reveal. But the problem was, the story, the writing lets them down. The plot really doesn't have like a narrative drive. It's just like one thing happens after another. And I'm just waiting for Red Hulk to show up most of the movie, because it's going to end that way, and it kind of takes the fucking wind out of it.
Yeah.
I thought Harrison Ford was also very good. It was a little hard to connect that this was the same Ross, and some of his conflict seemed a little forced. And I also think it was weird, that line in the trailer where he goes, "You're not Steve Rogers," and then Sam says, "You're right, I'm not." He does not say, they don't have that in the movie. He does not say, "You're right, I'm not." He just gets talked down to and then walks away. It's kind of weird. But it's not really Captain America movie, like you guys said. It's more about like General Ross, which was very strange that it happened that way. But in the post-credit scene we'll get to is very vague. But at the end of the day, I completely agree. Not a hit, not a miss. It's like right in the middle. It's not great. It's not it's a little bit of a mess. But it's like, okay to good. And
I would lean like okay. Like I would almost lean like more okay. And like, if you made an argument that this was one of the worst Marvel movies, I'd be like, I don't necessarily agree, but I could see where you're going with that.
Sure. Yeah. But it does beg the question about Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson's storyline. Like, you both guys kind of said different things. Gerald, on the one hand, you're right. He went through, can I be the Black Captain America? Will the world country accept this? And on the other hand, shouldn't we be done with that? And do we still? I felt like it could have used a little more of that in the movie, but we did go through that. So, but what they do is it's entirely safe and timid, and they kind of leave any kind of political edginess out of the whole thing.
But didn't you feel like, I mean, maybe I'm just misremembering too, because like I said, I didn't really like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but from what I remember, wasn't this a lot of the plot of that show though? Like thematically, at least, right?
No, it was. I think the thing is though, with this, first off, I didn't like that show either, so I didn't like that arc. So I'm almost like, let's do that again, because I didn't like the way that was handled. But secondly, I think they do that somewhat again in the movie because of the fact they're going, well, there's no chance everyone watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so we got to
drop in for people that didn't see it.
we got to do the Cliff Notes version of this, because that's why throughout the movie there's so much of this like exposition dump.
Yeah, because
they're pulling from some of the worst shit they've ever put out, like Incredible Hulk,
yes,
Eternals,
so crazy,
and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So they're like trying to like stitch together these movies and TV shows that weren't that good, people have forgotten, but there's threads that have been left unsewn or threaded. So they're trying to do that in this movie, and because of that, you get a lot of those, like a lot of just people explaining what's going on, and a lot of like, I don't know, just very weird choices, and like things where characters are speaking in ways where they'd never speak like that. Or you have like scenes where Harrison Ford is in a war room with like top people, and Cap walks in to talk to him, and Harrison Ford's like, "You can't be here. Everyone get out." It's like, that's not how any of this would go. Like, what is? It kind of insults your intelligence a lot with in a lot of those.
I also didn't know the president gets to go like on a battleship and actually command orders and press buttons when you're firing missiles and shit. That seemed kind of weird. Where's all his people? Here's the biggest question: who's the fucking vice president? Because that person is now in charge. We don't know who that is.
Right.
Will that be brought up in Thunderbolts? Hopefully.
No.
But I did look. On one hand, I enjoyed the connections. What have you been crying about? What about this fucking giant celestial sticking out of the earth? That's addressed, and we have the introduction of adamantium as they slowly build to the X-Men, and then you have the leader coming back also. But I also felt like it was just kind of fan servicey, and it didn't really. I mean, I guess it is important.
So you guys, you two know the end game. Pardon the pun. I don't mean to have a pun there, but so you guys know what the goal of this is, like what it's going to connect to with the X-Men and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean,
okay,
yes.
right.
Yeah, you want to, or I'll
well, no, I just didn't know. I just didn't know if Marvel had kind of laid that out yet or not.
So they're building towards. They're kind of running parallel tracks here. So they're building towards Secret Wars. And Doomsday and Secret Wars, which revolve around a plot of multiversal threats, right? So that's why at the end, spoiler, the leader says there's a 67, whatever the probability says, that the others will come, meaning other heroes from other worlds. So they're building towards that.
Yeah,
variants. But then they're they just acquired the X-Men maybe a few years ago. So they've been peppering in these movies, almost kind of ham-fisted, like not very subtle at all.
Yeah.
That the X-Men are here and we have them and they're coming, right? So like the end of Eternals, they have Beast in there. In Miss Marvel, they reveal that Kamala Khan is a mutant.
Yeah.
So this movie, they're like adamantium is part of this. Like, so they're running these two things at the same time. I think the problem here is they don't have the same kind of momentum that they did from 2008 to 2019.
Yeah.
So while they're throwing these in and people are like, oh, look at that, the movies aren't as good. So it's not as exciting when you're trying to build up to something, but you're watching stuff that is just, kind of mediocre.
They're really slow rolling the X-Men thing. So adamantium is the metal that covers Wolverine's bones and what his claws are made out of. And there's a great bit in the comics, so maybe they'll do this in a movie where Magneto literally, who can control magnetism, pulls all the adamantium out of Logan, who has a healing power, and it's just horrific. And I want to see that on the screen.
Well, that happens in X-Men 97.
Oh, it did. Yes, it did happen in the show too. And you saw that, and it was crazy. Will they do that live action? But yeah, so they're on the one hand, I love that we're like it's grounded. We're back into like the main MCU storyline, even though we're in this multiverse saga. And they're finally starting to put little Easter eggs connections, which is what I wanted. But then I felt like it was just kind of a little half-assed. But now adamantium is in the world along with vibranium.
When they're doing that stuff, Gerald, are you like, as a more casual fan, are you like, hey, that's intriguing, what does that mean? And are you looking it up? Or are you like, I don't know what the hell that went? Or are you even like picking up on it at all?
I mean, being a fan of the X-Men, I knew that it was obviously connected to Wolverine and the adamantium and claws and stuff. So I knew there was probably a connection, but it didn't intrigue me enough to where I had to like go research it, just probably because the movie kind of fell somewhat flat for me. So I figured, when I see a new X-Men movie, I'm going to check it out, and then there'll probably be connections to this and that. But that's kind of why I asked you guys, because I didn't know if Marvel had kind of laid out like this is where we're heading, or if we're just supposed to know if we know the X-Men, like, oh, okay, well, here come, we're obviously going to be a part of the story.
Yeah, I think we're still good 5-6 years away from any kind of actual X-Men.
Nah, I disagree. I think they're going to do X-Men sooner.
Oh yeah, next phase. Okay.
I didn't understand. As a casual fan, I didn't understand the hidden scene. I mean, you guys just kind of explained it.
The post-credit
scene. Yeah.
Yes, when he's talking about the others, can you protect the planet? That is kind of hinting at Doomsday Secret Wars and variants and all that shit. So let's talk about the action scenes. I thought there was 2 really decent action scenes and 2 just okay action scenes. I actually like the scene over the Indian Ocean with the jets at the Celestial Island. That and the Hulk scene I thought were really good. The opening hand-to-hand fighting scene in Mexico, there was a lot of editing and it seemed a little rough.
Yeah, any of the close hand combat was a fucking mess. I mean, it was like, I think Tony mentioned earlier, you can tell the actors aren't even in the shot, and when Esposito's in the scenes, like, I think all of his scenes were reshoots, right? So I don't think he was ever actually on.
He was never that character, and he was never in the original film. They literally hired him on after test screenings and shot completely new stuff with him.
That scene where he's like in the car shootout where he just comes out of nowhere and like, where are we? Why is he there driving? And then they just have a shootout and a battle. It's like, what is happening? Why are they there?
Yeah. Like, why did he do that? What's going on? Yeah.
I did like the assassination scene, which we kind of saw in the trailers. I thought that sequence was okay. I didn't see the other shooters, that was kind of fun. And you get to see Ruth, the Secret Service agent. She's a little badass, but she's a tiny woman to be the head of security. She's former Black Widow.
Yeah, it was a strange casting choice. I was thinking at the time, I'm like, what? I'm supposed to buy that, but I mean, I guess if you have the training, it doesn't matter what your stature is. But
yeah,
I also didn't like. I was going to ask y'all's opinion because you're obviously closer to the material, but I also didn't like Isaiah coming back to essentially like take the fall again, like, because we saw that in the show too, right? Or am I misremembering that?
Well, in the show, he was locked up after being kept serving his country forever, and then
30 years or whatever.
Yeah. So this one they bring him in to honor him or whatever, or have him part of the White House thing, and then he mind control flips. So that doesn't happen in the show. I didn't mind that. I thought it was fine. Like I kind of liked like Sam's journey to help him. It's just Sam then gets like so caught up in some other thing that like that part of the plot gets pushed into the background for a bit. On the action front, I agree with both of you. The Eternals, or not the Eternals, the Celestial scene I thought was all right. I liked the Red Hulk stuff for the most part, but the hand-to-hand combat was not great. I wouldn't say it was embarrassing like Iron Fist bad, but I didn't feel as engaged. Like if you compare that to
Winter Soldier or even
exactly the Winter Soldier on the ship, or him Cap fighting Winter Soldier in the middle of the street, like that's so dynamic and awesome.
Yeah, and
this just the bar has been set, and it was not met for the most part in this movie in terms of action.
I mean, and that's the directing. The directing is not great. It's all right. It's part of the problem, along with the writing. I thought Carl Lumbly. I love this character. I wanted to see more of him. I think they changed a lot of his story, and that's why he gets short shrifted again. But man, I felt for him. But he was like, I can't go back there because he was the Captain America after Steve Rogers was like in the ice, and then it was him for a while. It would have been great. And when we get to stuff they cut out, I feel like there was a different plan, but I want to see more. I love that he was training Danny Ramirez. We get a great cameo. We didn't even mention this from Bucky Barnes, one Sebastian Stan. And this actually surprised me. I did not know he was going to be in the movie.
I actually disagree. I don't think that's a great cameo at all. I don't understand why he's even in the movie.
He is kind of forced in there.
It's kind of like, I'd love to hear Gerald's thoughts, but like I feel like it just is like, oh, there's Winter Soldier.
Something.
He just shows up and then he's gone, and it's like,
okay,
well, where's he been?
It is also weird because they mention he's running for Congress. I was like, what the fuck? They better address this in Thunderbolts.
Yeah, I wonder if it was set up for that too, because I did think that was weird too. I'm like, he's on the campaign trail. This like there was no setup for any of that shit for him being there.
In there.
So to answer Tony's question, it was kind of like an eye roll situation. I mean, I love Sebastian Stan and I love the Winter Soldier, so it's cool. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, he's literally just here for fan service, so. it had no bearing on the plot. It wasn't really emotional. I guess it was supposed to be for them, in their past or whatever, but it didn't hit with me like that. I knew there was going to be some kind of weird cameo in this thing. I thought it might be in the end credit scene, but it was just it just fell flat for me. It was like,
it surprised me. I was like, oh, I didn't know he was going to be in this movie. And that's all it does, really, is
that's all it is.
Surprise you. You're like, oh, that was definitely added afterwards.
Did you guys think that there was a chance Chris Evans would show up in this? Because I was worried about that too. I was like, is he going to be in this from like in the future? Captain America or something?
In this tie, is he's just like an old man in that?
I guess
somewhere.
Yeah, he might be just an old man. It's really unclear where he's at, if he's just an old man. But yeah, I think that would have been the wrong move too, right? You want to have this be his own movie, and then to have Cap. But I mean, I feel like this movie, because of the reviews, and we'll see how much money it makes, I feel like they're going to get desperate and just be like, hey, Chris, come on back and do another Cap movie.
I feel really bad for Anthony Mackie because both of his Captain America projects were fucked by things kind of out of his control. The Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think that was during COVID, and they had to push back and change things.
They not only had to push back, they had to rewrite a thread about the world disease. But I also think both of these movies, I know you're going to get into but we know about the behind the scenes for this movie, so I don't know that we need to get into it. But I also feel like both of these movies just had very the bones of a good script, the bones of something like thought provoking and intriguing, but very and I don't normally say this type of stuff, but very Disneyfied, where it's just we're just going to do enough to make you go, hey, they're trying to really have a deeper conversation about what it means to be a black hero in the U.S. at this time. But we're not really going there.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about this relationship that, abusive fathers have with, workaholic fathers have with their daughters. But we're not really going there. By the way, side note, I'm still not convinced Liv Tyler was actually in the movie.
I didn't think so they play. I was like, I know she's supposed to be in this. You hear her voice. I bet she don't show up. And then at the very end, we'll get into, she shows up at the raft, and I'm like, you think it was her?
What I'm saying, I don't think that was her.
You don't think? Well, there was bars in front of her, so
exactly.
I don't know.
There were bars in front of her.
Yeah.
It looks like she's exactly the same age she was 17 years ago. I mean, the way it's shot makes you
weird.
Do a side eye where you're like, I don't think she's actually there.
There's a lot of that in this movie. And then let's talk about the leader's plan, because he's supposed to be smart, but the Cap fucking derails his plans, and then pills with gamma radiation. Sure, I guess.
So
why would the president fucking trust him?
Let's unpack his plan real quick. So Thaddeus Ross captures the leader after the end of the Incredible Hulk. His brain was morphed by the gamma radiation, but it made him smarter. And I think he says they pump him with more of it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So he keeps Thaddeus Ross, or he keeps leader locked in a hole as basically his think tank to come up with the best ways to take advantage, win things, right?
Yep.
And then he also is dying, so he relies on leader to help give him a cure, and the leader does this by giving him pills that also have gamma that will turn him eventually into the Hulk, because he wants to one day turn him into the Red Hulk to embarrass him enough to basically break his name, right? Like, that's the plot.
Right.
And then he also wants to manipulate him while he's the president so that he causes a world war, right? That's another part of it, right?
Yep.
Right? So does that all track, Gerald?
Yeah, that's kind of how I took it. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, when you think about it, there's so many holes in this, right? Like,
oh my God, yes.
How would he have known that he would have manipulated things in Thaddeus' favor to get him to a point where he would have became the president?
Yeah, he got him president. Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
How did he know that, when the timing of when the gamma would
did he activate
turn him into the Hulk
or something? I don't understand.
Well, he does kind of activate it, right?
Yeah.
How does he have the tools to come up with mind control technology? to
Sure.
basically mind control anybody that he wants with songs.
Yeah.
I guess this all can be explained with
He's the smartest man.
he's the smartest man in the world.
But then how did he not see fucking Captain America fucking up his plans?
Right. That's where it all falls apart. Is then how does Anthony Mackie outsmart him?
Yeah, he's not really that smart.
Or how does Anthony Mackie? It doesn't really even. That's another hole. So the end, right? So the whole thing here is he manipulates Ross with the medication and his words to turn him into the Red Hulk because he wants to basically take down his career and turn him into a monster. And the only way that Red Hulk can subdue himself is to think about his daughter, which Anthony Mackie brings up.
Yeah.
But I thought, and the plot leads to this, and I thought this would have been like a nicer arc, is I thought the way he would have turned into the Red Hulk, or way he would have turned back into Thaddeus Ross, wasn't a speech from Anthony Mackie about his daughter. It would have been fucking his daughter showing up.
Oh my God, yes. Here's Betty. And then
because then if you want to really do a full tie-in to Incredible Hulk, the way that, if you remember from the Incredible Hulk, Bruce Banner, the Hulk, is choking out the Abomination with this chain, and he's got to kill him.
Right.
And Betty goes, "Stop!"
Yeah.
And that sound of hearing Betty, wow, I don't know if that sounded like Betty at all.
Just
the
like
sound of Betty forces the Hulk to become Bruce Banner again. So it would have come full circle where now the Red Hulk is going on this rampage. You bring back Betty. She says something, and he's like, "Oh my God, Betty." And I'd be turned back into
that would have been great.
Red Hulk.
That would have been great.
That's not what they do.
Well,
because I don't think they had Liv Tyler actually
at all.
Because she wasn't there. Yeah.
So
and they couldn't shoot her. But what are your thoughts? Just the quick way I rewrote some of that ending.
I mean, that sounds better to me, honestly. I mean, it was a little cliche with the like speech about family and daughter, and then you know, and this is this angry red beast, and all of a sudden he's like, okay, you know, that you kind of hit me in the heartstrings. Let me turn back into Harrison Ford.
And it was too duplicative of the. Remember Gerald at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier? We end with like this weird speech from Aunt Sam, where he's like, "You got to do better, world leaders," and it's like, why are we doing this again? Where he's like grandstanding and giving speeches to end things.
Listen, the question was, how does a person with no superpower serum and vibranium wings going to defeat a Hulk? He almost gets his head smashed. Love saves the day, of course. That's the only way. So just to
well, his like defining characteristics are that he has this empathy and compassion for people.
Yeah, okay. Who? Sam. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just go through the ending real quick. See where we leave off after Ross calms down and he's an old naked Harrison Ford. That was awkward.
You get to see her. Yeah, you get to see shirtless Harrison Ford at 80.
Oh my God,
800 years old.
He is old. Then I didn't need to see that.
Well, before you get into recapping the ending, someone brought this up.
Yeah.
I like Harrison Ford, but do you guys feel like he was almost too old to play this? Because he looks older than William Hurt.
He does. That's why I couldn't fully connect. This is the same guy.
Because he's trying to give off the Air Force One vibe.
Yes, get off my plane.
But he's not that. He's so old. Like, he's old. Like, he's fucking visibly old.
Yeah, he's getting up there. I will say in his performance, though, I was surprised. Like, I thought he did really well, like acting. I mean,
he was bringing the energy.
I would have expected him to kind of phone it in here on the, to be honest.
Yeah, sometimes he does.
But I thought he did really well. We were already kind of talking about this where the script comes up short, but I mean, what he had to work with, I thought this was a pretty good Harrison Ford performance, honestly.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree.
Yeah.
I heard that as a talking point, so I wanted to bring that up. But I did find him still interesting and fun to watch on the screen.
No, yeah, he's a standout. You know, Mackie's a standout. I like Carl Lumley stood out for me from the performances. But how we end is Isaiah is exonerated and released from prison thanks to Sam. The treaty that Ross was trying to get together is signed. The world will share the adamantium from Celestial Island.
Why is there only Japan,
There's
India,
only like France
and U.S.?
Yeah, it's like 4
Why
nations.
are there 4 countries?
They're just hoarding it. Yeah, I don't know where the rest of the world is. Where's Wakanda? Well, they have vibranium.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Easier to get than vibranium now, this miracle substance, kind of. Like, it's not in a country you can't get to, and you can just go and pluck it. Ross is being held on the raft.
Right.
And I do love that conversation that when Sam visits him, is you have a president of the United States like taking accountability for something, for his actions, and saying and understanding and respecting, what his role is. So that was pretty good. I don't know.
When do you think that was written?
Oh, okay. I'll get into. I do think they thought Trump was going to lose, basically, when they were writing this movie, and probably had to change some shit, right?
Okay.
And then that's when Betty visits him at that visit, and maybe she's there, maybe she's not.
I don't think she's there.
And then Sam visits Falcon in the hospital, and in the beginning, the president did ask him to restart the Avengers, and then Isaiah shot at him, and the president's like, no, I don't need you anymore. But he says he will be restarting the Avengers, and wants Joaquin Torres there to be the Falcon. And then we get the post-credit scene, which you notice Sam's arm no longer in a sling, so this must be sometime later. And Samuel Stern gives you the vague, what about the others? What do you about when you have to protect this place from the others?
Right.
So that's where we are. Couple of questions. Remember Secret Invasion? Nobody wants to remember that show. But there was a president, and at the end of that show, the president announced it was an open season on anybody that people think are aliens. Remember that shit?
Right.
What happened to that?
Yep.
What happened to that president?
Well, he's gone.
Was he gone?
Harrison
Okay.
Ross is now president.
Oh, here's the question I had. The Red Hulk only has 9 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
But I actually thought this was the perfect amount of Red Hulk, and it was used impactfully, and I wasn't mad at the small screen time.
Yeah, I think even as a greater extension of that, I kind of I appreciated that this was under 2 hours. Like they could have really bloated this thing out even more, especially with all the reshoots and everything. So I thought that Red Hulk sequence at the end was super impactful too, as a viewer, as a casual viewer, because I knew it was coming. It's obviously on all the marketing materials and whatever. And if you're a fan of the Incredible Hulk, you want to see that. So I thought it was cool that it was kind of the climax of the film. And they teased it. Remember on the ship, they kind of teased that he was going to change
he
in that one
starts
scene.
to change a little bit. Yeah.
And then they pulled back, and then you're like, okay, I'll wait a few more minutes, So I thought they did a nice build up to that climax with the Red Hulk.
I agree. I think the Red Hulk is an appropriate foe for him to battle at the end, where it's like how the hell is Sam Wilson going to get around beating this guy? And I don't like the way he gets around beating him, as I discussed, but it is an intriguing thing to be like, how is this going to happen? I think the failure with that is just the marketing, right? So the marketing just shoved they didn't know what to do and how to market it. So they said the best way to market this is to just reveal that Red Hulk is in this movie in all the posters and all the trailers.
I really wish they didn't. They helped.
Yeah. So that creates this expectation that Red Hulk is in the movie more often, more prevalently than he is, and he's not. And not only that, he's in the third act. So now you're just waiting for this thing to happen.
Yep. And
then you wait till the third act. So I think that ultimately the marketing failed in terms of building up anticipation. Like it built up anticipation, but it built it up in a way where now people are ultimately left disappointed because there wasn't enough Red Hulk, or the fact that it even just spoils the fact that when he gets revealed, it's the end of it's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Like there's not much else in this movie past that.
Yeah, you're just waiting for it, and it is fun, but it would have been nice not to know it. Okay, so go ahead.
I just wanted to ask one thing of you two real quick. So I didn't know if you were going to go over this or not, but you said this was the 35th movie, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Isn't this the first one that didn't have that like Marvel opening?
Yes. The opening logo.
Why do you think?
I don't know why.
Do you think that was significant, or why didn't they have it?
So the opening they show is more like thematic to like this kind of 70s espionage thriller kind of movie that they wanted it to be, but I don't know what that means. And you're right, it was a different Marvel logo.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, no, they didn't. When it scrolls by the words and you see the clips in the side of the letters on the inside, it was just like black and white Marvel Studios. Kind of, yeah. I don't know. That I thought that was very interesting, but I don't know why.
I don't either.
Okay, so here's some of the things that were cut or changed. There is literally another whole movie that was made. There's this report going around about this guy who worked on the set, and he said there were so many things we shot that got cut, and it also mentions how grumpy Harrison Ford was during this movie. But he's always grumpy, apparently, in every movie. It's a little hard to work with. Let's start with the character of Ruth Bat Seraph Shiraz. Originally, this character was supposed to be Sabra. In the comics, Sabra is a mutant with powers who is also an Israeli Mossad agent. Okay? So when they announced that this character was going to be in the movie, pro-Palestinian people were very mad. Then they said, oh no, she's not going to be Israeli Mossad. We're going to change it. And then the Israelis were mad. So this was a no-win situation either way. So they end up making her an Israeli former Black Widow. Somebody's going to be mad still. Also, her and Isaiah Bradley were possibly supposed to suit up and help Sam fight in certain scenes. There is an international poster with her in a suit, and there's been some other reference to that.
Do we know, Imran, I know you're going through scenes, do we have any idea of what the original plot was?
I just saw some articles coming out of kind of original MCU leak plot details. You can kind of piece together from these cuts what the original plot was. I think it was still about adamantium and the canister, but I think it was more comic booky, and that's what they changed. Here's another thing that was supposed to happen. Ross was originally supposed to die. They had shot a funeral scene with Betty Ross. The leader's look was changed. Originally, it was comic accurate with the big, tall head and giant forehead. Tim Blake Nelson actually said he reshot all his scenes. And they gave him that crazy, weird, bumpy head, which, I don't know.
It looked weird.
Yeah.
It looked
kind of cheap.
What did you say? It looked like a Halloween costume?
Yeah, it looked cheap, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, I know the leader is a weird looking character, but in a Captain America film, it was really strange. I really couldn't. It just felt like it was out of place. Like he felt like he was in he felt like he was in a spoof movie.
Oh, almost. Look, that was bad. I did not like it. I did not.
Yeah,
like it.
I mean, even to be a little more forgiving, but still kind of knock it. It looked like maybe he was in like a TV show.
Yeah.
Television, like, you know what I mean? With the budget was a lot lower or whatever. Yeah.
Well, on that note too, like there's some scenes in here that look to me TV quality. Like
a little bit. Yeah.
When they're fighting the Celestials, and you keep cutting back to Harrison Ford on the ship.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that looks like a TV set with the red room and all that. Like that stuff. This is Marvel. Like you have millions of dollars. Like you could probably shoot on a real ship. to be like in a fucking room, like a control room the entire time, I think it just was a very odd. Like you could see the seams of this movie, like where I wouldn't be surprised if that was all reshot.
Steven Seagal shot on a real ship. Come on, fucking Marvel.
Yeah,
what are you doing? More changes. Seth Rollins, pro wrestler, and Rosa Salazar were originally cast as Serpent Society members. So we briefly see a group called the Serpents. It sounds like all the Serpent Society in the comics is a superpowered villain team. And it sounds like all that scenes were cut and replaced with the Giancarlo Esposito sidewinder scenes.
They were more Snake type,
right? So, because Rosa Salazar was playing Diamondback, and she had bright pink hair. There is a set photo of her with bright pink hair. There's McDonald's Happy Meal toys of this character with bright pink hair from this movie. So they changed all of that. This one,
they downplayed it to make it more of a name of a gang,
right? Of like a terrorist group.
Yeah, exactly.
This one's crazy. Amadeus Cho was supposed to be in this movie. Teenage Amadeus Cho that becomes Hulk. He would have been played by Logan Kim, who's in Ghostbusters Afterlife. It's originally Sam would visit Cho at Stark Industries to learn about the pills. And then there was a different post-credit scene that was supposed to have Stearns allude that he turned Amadeus Cho into a Hulk as well. Maybe trying to set up like a World War Hulk or something. But all that was removed. And they had a bunch of different post-credit scenes where Red Hulk visits Betty after they presume he's dead, but he's not. He visits Betty. And so a lot of things were changed, chopped together. And I think you can kind of see what I wonder how bad that version was.
Let me ask you this while we're on this before we get into ratings and reviews. And I won't actually ask Gerald because, and Imran, you can chime in after. But from 2008 to 2019, were you following all the Marvel movies?
Following might be generous
Not
term.
following, but were you watching them?
Yeah. I was seeing pretty much all of them. Yeah.
I mean, that run, especially when you get into Phase 3, when they did Spider-Man and Black Panther and Thor Ragnarok and leading up to Infinity War, like it was just banger after banger after banger in terms of good, like very well-reviewed movies, very entertaining, making tons of money, building towards something. That, like Doomsday, I think is coming out next year, which is the next big Avengers film.
Yeah.
They're almost at this point. I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine was fun. It was a great time. This movie, obviously not to that level at all in terms of entertainment or anything like that. Like, they're clearly not on that same trajectory right now. There is not the hype that they had. Do you think, if let's say, do you think with two movies, Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four and whatever else is supposed to come out before Doomsday, like, do you think they can recapture that magic they had? Or is that like, hey, that was a moment in time where Marvel was doing something that they've never done before, or no one's ever done before, where they've built this like interconnected universe where every movie built on the next movie and built on another movie that then culminated in this event where everyone from all the movies comes together, and they're trying to recreate that again. But do you think it's even possible at this point to recreate that kind of energy in terms of like cultural zeitgeist?
I mean, my initial response is no, just because, I mean, even based on my own kind of reflection on what's happened since 2019, like, I feel like, and I mean, I could be in a vacuum or whatever. It could just be me and, the select people I talk to in my circle. But I just think that they've lost us at this point. You know what I mean? Like, we're not on board anymore. Now you have like super fans, like, maybe you include yourselves in that, and then you have like people that still read the comics weekly, and like they're always going to be there. It's always going to make millions of dollars, and like I get it, but I'm just not invested. And I am excited for certain projects. Like, I think Fantastic Four looks really cool. It kind of reminds me of WandaVision a little bit, honestly.
It's the same director.
Yeah. So I am excited for it, but I'm not excited for it so that I can use it to like see 15 more movies. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to like see that movie. I'm excited for that film. So to answer your question, I would say I think that is no longer, or that should no longer be their goal. Their goal should be to really kind of shift their mentality a little bit to like just make good movies.
Yeah.
Like just a 2-hour film or 2.5 hours, like just make that good. And if that's a really good screenplay, really good actors doing great performances, a really good story, great action set pieces, fight choreography, and the 2 hours is like a fucking banger movie that, makes $1 billion and everybody loved it. And then you can throw that little cliffhanger at the end.
Right.
And like, okay, I love this movie. That was awesome. I can't wait to see what that cliffhanger
which is what Iron Man was, which is how they started.
Yeah. Just focus on that one project as opposed to like looking 20 projects down the road. And I know that's easier said than done because they're trying to have continuity and all that stuff. But I feel like if they would devote all of their attention into making like one successful, 08 Iron Man again, and like if that hits, okay, now we're good. Now let's do the next one. What's next? And then you keep making bangers, and people keep going to see them and they're impressed by what they see, as opposed to making a episodic, like, this only works if you know this,
I mean, they're kind of chapters, right? All these 35 movies, but the last 5 have just been all over. To your point, Anthony, I don't think there's enough time, unless Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four are absolute bangers. There's no time to build up a thing to Avengers Doomsday like they did the first time. Right. You can't do that again because you did it. So I agree with Gerald. They got to pivot. And what's different? How about you just make one good movie at a time?
Right.
Maybe.
I mean, that's what I mean, I'm not a studio head, but I mean, that's what I don't know why somebody's not stepping back going, all right, here we go. This is a clean slate. I'm putting all my people on this, all my best screenwriters, like whatever. And I want you to come up with the best version of blank, whatever it is. And then if that hits and fans and casual viewers alike rally around that as something special, then you build off of that for the next one, not for the next 20 of them, just for the next one. Do you see what I'm saying? Like have a more minimal vision for what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I'm also in the same boat where I just don't think the hype that I had for even like when you talk about Avengers, the original Avengers, or even Age of Ultron, where going into those movies, like these are events. This feels amazing. Like I'm excited. I don't have that same energy for the next Doomsday. Not to say I won't be excited, because I probably will be, but I just don't feel like the same momentum. I think looking back on it too, I think it's easy to say this now, and I was one of those that was super pumped when stuff was getting on Disney Plus and all that stuff. But I think at some point, building a universe where everything builds on the next movie, I think that just eventually, like, I think this was inevitable. Like, if you were going to keep doing this, eventually when you're building a house on, very, like, you keep building, like, adding stories to a house where the foundation was built with material from 2008 and it's, like, rotting and shit. Like, eventually that stuff is just, it's going to fall apart. And there's not, I mean, you see this even in the comics.
Yeah.
Like, you try to make sense of all those stories and try to mold them into a like event comic, and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like none of this. So like Ruggs will talk about like it needs to be more about the comics and things like that, and he's not here to defend himself, so I'm sure I'll hear about it later. But I don't think that's the case. Like I don't think it needs to be more about the comics, because the comics are a house of cards too. So like this stuff, I think it's just the fact that they expanded too quickly after Endgame and went with the TV shows and the movies and they thought the answer was let's throw more out there.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, like it should have been let's actually pull back and think about what like Gerald said, where it's just like let's release one good thing at a time and rebuild this thing instead of capitalizing on that Endgame buzz and being like, okay, we have carte blanche to do whatever we want. Because when you do that and you have all these different things going out, it gets built on, I mean, first off, it's inefficient. Like the company itself can't release 9 properties a year and have everything be top quality because Kevin Feige spread too thin. But then furthermore, like all these threads now that you have out there inevitably are supposed to weave back to Avengers, but there's so many threads out at this point that it's just hard to make sense of anything. And you're seeing that even in this film where they're trying to tie everything back together, and then you have casual fans and even people like me being like, Incredible Hulk, we're pulling from that, like what's going on?
Right
So that's my long-winded way of saying maybe this was all inevitable at some point if they were going to keep doing this.
Look, like you said in the beginning, Anthony, we are in the adjustment period, right? Between the Chapek and the Iger. So despite the fact that this is a mediocre movie, my other concern is the next 2 movies, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, directed by Jake Schreier, Matt Shackman. Those are both TV director guys. So that's a little concerning, but I still have hope that they will right the ship. We just got to get through.
I have one thought on that.
Yeah.
Actually, so I've started off this review being like, hey, it's all right, and then kind of went into the negative. I did write down after the movie, I went, this might seem crazy, but I think Marvel might be headed in the right direction.
Oh.
And the reason I said that was I think it's clear to me, even with these reshoots, that they've realized that they've got to turn things around.
Yeah.
And while I don't know that it necessarily worked for this movie, I do get the sense with all the reshoots and the way they've reworked Daredevil and the way you look at like Fantastic Four, like that looks completely different than anything I've seen in a while for Marvel. I do think that they've recognized, like the first step to admitting there's an issue is admitting there's a problem. And I think they've admitted that and like are trying to address that stuff. It's just like this movie was caught in that transition.
Absolutely. It's still, we got to get through this and we're going to see what happens. All right, though, that's a good place to get our ratings. Gerald, give me a number out of 10 And you don't have to rank it. We can kind of put it in a tier. There's 35 fucking movies. It's hard to rank these at this point.
Yeah, and plus I haven't seen them all. But yeah, I mean, it's probably I don't know if I can remember them all vividly, but it's probably towards the bottom of like the Captain America movies for sure.
For sure.
I do think it's a little bit better than the series Falcon and Winter Soldier, at least in terms of like my enjoyment of it.
Okay.
But it was basically the same too, though. So I don't know. I just feel like I enjoyed it more because it was 2 hours in and out as opposed to 8 episodes or whatever. But it's right down the middle for me. I would probably give it like a 5 out of 10. Like I really like the Red Hulk stuff. Yeah. I love Isaiah as a character. I hate that he kind of got cast as the victim again, all over again in this movie. But all in all, it's okay. I would say go for the Red Hulk stuff, but kind of like what Tony said, just be ready to wait an hour and 40 minutes before you see it. But yeah, it's probably a 5 out of 10 for me.
5 out of 10. Look, Red Hulk's still in play. Isaiah still in play. They can use them. We might see them somewhere. Anthony, give me a number. Where you can put it?
I'm not copying Gerald, but I also had it as a 5 out of 10.
Okay.
It's just a movie.
Yeah.
It's
definitely is a movie.
It's a movie. It's not very memorable. As far as where I have it ranked, I do have a list on Letterboxd. I have it currently as number 28 out of 35.
Okay, that sounds right. Yeah.
The movies that, like, just to give you what those movies are that are around it. So in front of it's Eternals at 27. And then the movies behind it I have are Iron Man 2, Incredible Hulk, Black Widow, The Marvels, Thor the Dark World, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Captain Marvel. So it's in that range.
How does this fare compared to like Thor Love and Thunder and Quantumania for you?
So Thor Love and Thunder I don't hate as much, so I have it at 18.
Wow.
Quantumania I don't hate as much as the people do, but I have it at 25. So it's in that range.
Yeah. Okay. What was your number?
5.
You said 5.
Do you think, well, before we get into your thoughts and run, just to ask Gerald that question, have you seen like Thor Love and Thunder and Ant-Man Quantumania?
I have.
Better or worse?
Extremely. This is better. I extremely Quantumania I disliked. I didn't know what the hell was going on in that movie.
You like the stretchy face on fucking that thing? Yeah.
Oh my
God. MODOK, yeah. Like the stretchy face MODOK.
Yeah, that shit was weird. So Love and Thunder I didn't hate as much as I hated Quantumania. It would probably be right in line with Love and Thunder for me. This one, I mean.
All right.
Yeah, kind of playing in that same sandbox though.
All right.
Yeah, so like I said, I love the Hulk. I love we're back in the MCU storyline, but there's just too many things going on. Like Ruth Sidewinder, almost unnecessary characters, too many plot lines, very disjointed. But man, I love the Red Hulk. I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
Whoa!
Is what just in that?
Okay,
just,
wow.
Yeah, for the Red Hulk stuff. Because
Imran is a notoriously high grader.
Yes, I'm generous because that Red Hulk stuff left me smiling, and we saw some other things. But I would put it kind of ranking wise about where you guys headed. Like it's on par maybe with Thor Love and Thunder. I do think I like it better than Ant-Man Quantumania. But it is the worst Captain America movie.
Oh, by far. That's not even close. Yeah. It's the worst by far.
So it's like top of the bottom tier, I guess. But coming in at just average and maybe slightly forgettable. But I don't know. Fun time if you're into Marvel. All right, let's find out real quick what our listeners thought. In News from the Nation. It's time for News from the Nation. It's time for News from the Nation.
It stinks. It stinks. It stinks.
How many holes is that? What is that? It was a flapper.
That was a wet one,
that was
sure.
Juicy. All right, I got a couple comments from our listeners posted in our Facebook group, Jock and Nerd Nation, about the movie. Bruce O'Hughes says it was the cheapest looking, most expensive movie I have ever seen. Accurate.
Yeah.
Chris Wiegand says, not a perfect movie, but enjoyable nonetheless. You could tell there were reshoots and switches from on-site to green screen, but it had a good overall plot and some very nice surprises. Awesome seeing Betty and Bucky. Love seeing D-Man, but super sad of his fate. Okay, I got to explain that. I didn't even mention this. That guy, his military buddy that he gives him the pills to, he's like, can you figure out what these pills are?
Oh, yeah.
That guy in the comics, his name is Commander Dennis Dunphy. And in the comics, he's better known as Demolition Man or D-Man. First appeared in Captain America 328 in 1987. And then they fucking kill him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Good catch by Chris Wiegand. Jamie Robinson of the Throwback Thursday, Mr. Throwback Thursday podcast says, I thought it came across as a phase 1 style film. And for me, that was a good thing. There was air action, there was some ground action, and both were enough to keep me entertained. I was hoping to get a Tim Roth cameo with the early mention of Abomination, but it was not to be. Questions, as someone who hasn't read a new comic since the early 90s, post-credit, who are the others mentioned? And then we talked about that. That's possibly variants and, I don't know, the Beyonder, Doom, whatever. Timeline question. If we have just discovered adamantium, when does Wolverine/Deadpool storyline take place? That's all in a different timeline.
That's a different universe.
It's a
there,
whole
Jamie.
Different universe. He has not crossed over to the 616. So, again, I don't know. We'll see. Will the X-Men show up 2028 or later? Rick Martinez says, I'm happy to say Harrison Ford did not phone it in. Yes, that's what we talked about. Other people noticed that. Daryl K says Captain America Brave New World, great fun and definitely worth seeing in theaters. I mean, who would you recommend? You would recommend to go in the theaters? I'm split on this.
Who are you asking?
Both of you guys. Yeah.
Go ahead, Gerald.
No, I mean the Red Hulk stuff. What we saw it in Dolby Cinema, my son and I.
Yeah, me too.
That was really cool to see. But again, it's what did you say? 9 minutes. He's on camera, so I don't know. Sneak into the last bit, I guess, when you go see something else and see the Red Hulk. Otherwise, I think it's just going to point out all the whack ass green screen stuff, and like it just really stands out like a sore thumb. The bigger the screen is. So I would say you don't have to see it on the big screen personally, unless this is just your shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your superhero movies, but yeah.
Same. I agree. If you love superhero movies or a Marvel completist and need to understand what's happening as soon as possible, go in and see it. Or if you have kids and you think they'd be into some of the action, take them then. But if you're a casual fan, definitely don't need to go in and see it. Sorry we made you, Gerald. And if you're more of like, I like these movies, but I'm only gonna I only have so much time, just wait for it. I mean, it'll be out on Disney Plus in 30, 45 days?
Probably 45 to 90 days. That's the other thing we're talking about streaming is the shit comes out. So here's the thing though. I'm kind of conflicted. I think the second weekend is going to be interesting. On the one hand, it has no competition for a few weeks and there's nothing really big coming out. And people love a blockbuster. This is currently like the big blockbuster movie, regardless of what people think. So the second week will be telling if this word of mouth either helps or hurts it. I think it might do okay. I think people will go just to have a good time because there isn't any other big spectacle thing out, Like we said, they make event movies, and it's...
I don't know. A lot of these movies with Marvel that have gotten... I mean, if you look at like the legs on Marvels or Quantumania, like those movies died really quick with the bad reviews. So I don't think this is actually going to have the legs. I think it's going to die pretty quickly.
The audience, though, on the Rotten Tomatoes is like 80%, which is like kind of high, but I don't know. Interesting.
I mean, there was a lot of people at the theater on a Saturday morning, and I think most of them were going to see it. It was playing in like 3 of the 15 screens or whatever. And, there's a shit ton of people there between like 11 and 1 on Saturday. So, if people love comic book or superhero based stuff, they're going to go see it most likely. And if they just want to go to the theater to see something that's like a crowd pleaser, they'll probably be going to see it too. Yeah. So I think it'll do okay, but I think it's probably going to have a pretty significant drop after like that second weekend for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Rokas Lou says, saw the early screening in Lithuania. That's cool.
Oh,
yeah. He says,
wow.
Which was quite late at night. So it was an empty theater, but I prefer watching it with less people. I enjoyed it. It felt like a phase 1 or 2 type of movie, which I think is a great approach. Therefore, I don't mind not a perfect plot All things considered, it was okay with all the edits due to the political situation. Mackie and Ford stole the show in terms of acting. A few important social subjects were touched, but didn't feel too much in your face. Villain lacked backstory, underdeveloped. Yep, served its purpose. He says, I think the action was decent and convincing. Great fights, exciting aerial shots. In short, if this is a stepping stone on building overall story and characters for the next 3 to 4 years and connecting it all, I am happy with it. That's interesting. I heard that a lot, that it felt like a phase 1 movie. And I kind of makes sense. Yeah, we'll see. I guess the leader knows about the multiverse. He's that smart to know about the multiverse, but not smart enough to have Sam not fuck up his plan. So anyways, fun stuff. Gerald, thank you so much for hanging out this week.
Yeah, man.
As I always ask Ruggs, where can the people find you online?
Well, it's all different now, so good luck. But I think you could find me if you just look up the Awards Garage. I'm currently having the RSS feed updated, but we're not going to have a podcast episode for the new format for a few weeks yet. So we're actually going to be reviewing this on my show as well. So I get to talk again about it with my co-host, who's most likely going to hate it a lot more than I did.
Boy.
Because he absolutely despises superhero movies traditionally. So we'll see how he does with this thing. But yeah, you can just find us. I actually updated our website, and you can find all our links there too. So you can just go to theawardsgarage.com.
Nice. Yeah. And if the listener is into the Oscar race, Gerald has great insight and great fun videos. Definitely subscribe. Man. Yeah. I love it. They're a lot of fun. Doing a great job over there. Anthony, where are you going to be this week? What state where are you going?
I will be in the state of Illinois, but I have a lot of things to watch. I have to catch up. I have to watch the last couple episodes of Cobra Kai. I have two more of those. I've got Invincible that's going to come out this week. I got to catch up on the Spider-Man stuff.
There's so much shit.
There's a lot of shit on TV. Yeah.
And even me, I'm behind and I can't, I'm not. Yeah.
Hey, Imran, you know what I wanted to say real quick? Because this comes out on Wednesday. I just thought about it, but that's the day of my own movie awards that I do on YouTube.
Oh.
So, and you presented there last year.
The Golden Peas?
Yes, the Golden Peas air this Wednesday night, the 19th at 9:30 Eastern on YouTube. You can watch it live, or of course it'll be on YouTube after that if you don't get a chance to tune in live. But we give out, I let the fans vote on the nominees, and we give out the awards Wednesday night. So that'll be happening the night that this comes out if they're listening to it on day one.
That's another great award show to catch. Yes, definitely check out that live stream or the replay. Links to everything in our episode description, listener. All of Gerald's stuff, how to support, how to follow. Thank you for listening to the Jock and Nerd Podcast. My name is Imran.
My name's Anthony.
He's the Jock.
He's a nerd.
We'll peep you next time.
I really don't give a shit.
That's fucking awesome. Yeah, that's really good.
Thing I offered you a chance to be a cop, and you blew it!
Jock and Nerd.